Have you ever, just stopped to notice how absolutely exhausting it is to keep up with modern society's definition of success?
Oh, completely. It's draining.
Right. You probably know the exact feeling we're talking about. We are constantly pressured to measure our worth by our income or our social status.
The size of your professional network.
Exactly. Or just the curated optics of our lifestyle on social media. And trying to maintain that image day in and day out is it's completely exhausting.
She's a treadmill that never actually stops.
Yeah.
I mean, the metric for enough is always designed to be just, slightly out of reach, which is why so many people today are dealing with chronic burnout.
So today, we're stepping off that treadmill entirely. We're taking a deep dive into a very different kind of framework.
A much older framework.
Yes. We've pulled together a stack of historical commentaries, psychological analyses, and the ancient text of Proverbs 19 itself. And our mission here isn't just to look at ancient wisdom like some dusty museum artifact.
Right.
We want to extract a blueprint for modern stability. We're going to see how prioritizing character and disciplined choices over wealth and impulsive desires can fundamentally rewire the way you live.
And that stability we're looking for is really just the starting point. Because the ultimate goal of our discussion today is to explore how understanding these principles can strengthen your trust and your relationship with God in your everyday life.
Yeah, we're talking about shifting the very foundation of how you operate. So, okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can look at how we interact with the world around us, we really have to look inward,
We
right?
have to look at our own character.
Exactly. The ancient texts start off with a pretty radical premise. It says, it is better to be a poor person who walks in integrity than someone who is dishonest and foolish. Which is just lays it right out there. Your character is worth significantly more than your material success.
Consider how subversive that idea is,
Mhm.
Both in the ancient world and today, we have this deep-seated psychological bias.
The halo effect, right?
Yes, the halo effect, where we unconsciously assume that wealth equates to personal superiority or even divine favor.
Like if someone is rich, they must be doing something right.
Exactly. We assume they must be smart, capable, and blessed. But the wisdom literature flips that assumption entirely upside down. It asserts that moral uprightness is the true measure of your worth.
Regardless of the balance in your bank account.
Right.
And it doesn't just stop at high-level character traits either. It immediately zooms in on how our character breaks down in real time, specifically calling out the danger of acting without knowledge. The phrase used in the source is, "He that hasteth with his feet sinneth." It's this profound warning about our impulsive, hasty decisions. And honestly, this feels more relevant now than ever.
Oh, without a doubt.
We live in a world engineered for hasty feet. I mean, one-click buying,
Instant messaging.
doom scrolling, all of it.
The neurological mechanism behind that is actually fascinating. When we rush into things, we are usually operating out of our amygdala.
The emotion center.
Right, the emotion center of the brain. And we're just chasing a quick dopamine hit. We completely bypass the prefrontal cortex, which handles logic and, long-term planning.
Wow. So we just short-circuit our own logic.
Exactly. So whether it's impulsive spending, a reckless comment, or just chasing immediate gratification, we create massive long-term consequences for ourselves.
Just because we refuse to tolerate the short-term friction of pausing to think. Which sets up what I think is the most painfully relatable observation in all of our source material today. The text notes this harsh truth. A person's own foolishness ruins their path, yet their heart fretteth against the Lord.
Oh, that's such a sharp observation.
Think about the psychology of that. We make the hasty choice, we completely ruin our own lives, and then our immediate reaction is to get angry at God.
It perfectly describes the modern human defense mechanism of cognitive dissonance.
Right. It's the classic default setting. It's like getting a speeding ticket because you chose to hit snooze 3 times and left the house 20 minutes late.
Yeah, entirely your fault.
Entirely. But instead of saying, wow, my time management is terrible today, I need to do better, you sit in your car, angrily blaming the police officer.
Or cursing the universe.
Or asking God why he is punishing you. I find myself wondering, why is our ego so incredibly fragile that we would rather accuse the creator of the universe of unfairness than admit we just made a dumb choice?
Well, because honest self-reflection requires a death to the ego. Taking responsibility means admitting our own flaws, our lack of discipline, and the limits of our own wisdom. It is psychologically much easier to cast ourselves as the victim of circumstances.
Or the victim of the system.
Exactly. But here is where the modern application becomes so powerful. True personal growth begins exactly where those excuses end.
So by stopping the blame game, we aren't just becoming, like, better citizens. We are actually changing our spiritual posture.
That's a great way to put it.
Because I imagine that accountability forces us to rely on a higher wisdom rather than our own hasty impulses.
You've hit on something crucial there. When we stop blaming God for the fallout of our own impulsive choices, we actually clear away the resentment that blocks our relationship with Him.
Oh, wow.
It's the first necessary step in saying, my way isn't working, my impulses are destructive, I need to align with something greater. It opens the door to a much more mature, trusting dynamic.
That makes total sense.
Oh,
And, you know, if our internal compass is broken by these hasty impulses, it naturally follows that this starts to poison our external relationships, too.
definitely. It spills over.
The text actually pivots right from these personal flaws into societal ones, specifically looking at how we use wealth as a social crutch.
And the sociological observations here are incredibly sharp.
They are almost brutally realistic. The commentaries point out verses that say things like, wealth maketh many friends, but the poor is separated from his neighbor. And it notes that everyone is a friend to the person who gives gifts, while the poor are abandoned even by their own family. Now, I have to push back on this for a second.
Wait, go ahead.
When you read that, it sounds incredibly cynical.
Yeah.
It reads exactly like a modern networking event where everyone is just staring at your name badge to see what your job title is.
To see what you can do for them.
Exactly. Are these verses just endorsing a pay-to-play society?
Well, it can feel very abrasive to read, but this raises an important question about how we engage with wisdom literature. The text isn't endorsing a pay-to-play society, it's holding up a mirror to human nature.
Ah, I see.
The author is diagnosing a societal sickness, noting the unfortunate reality that wealth artificially influences social connections. Status dictates how people are treated in a broken world.
So it's a warning about the illusion of wealth. It's saying,
Right.
hey, look at your modern networking event. Those aren't your real friends.
Precisely. To take that a step further, it's warning you about the psychological trap of transactional relationships. If your social circle is built on what you can provide financially or socially.
They'll be terrified of losing it.
Right. You will live in constant low-grade anxiety about losing your status. True relationships require loyalty and character, which are independent of financial advantage.
Yeah.
The text is telling you not to trust the crowds that gather around the wealthy because those crowds vanish the second the money stops flowing.
Which brilliantly sets up the counter-narrative in the text. If the world operates on this superficial, wealth-driven networking model, we are introduced to a completely different economy.
Yes, verse 17.
Right. It says, he that hath pity upon the poor lendeth unto the Lord, and that which he hath given will he pay him again.
That is one of the most paradigm-shifting concepts we've uncovered in these sources.
It really takes the transactional social dynamic we just talked about and turns it inside out.
It elevates the act of compassion from mere charity to a profound spiritual investment. In a modern context, this tells us that acts of generosity toward the vulnerable.
People who literally cannot offer you any social climbing advantages.
Exactly. Those acts are not just nice things to do. Helping the poor is literally framed as a direct partnership with God.
The phrasing, lendeth unto the Lord, is wild to think about. I'm assuming this implies that when we bypass the world's fake economy of networking, God essentially cosigns the debt of the vulnerable person.
That's the core of it. When you show compassion to those who society ignores, God takes their debt upon himself and promises the return on investment.
Wow.
It fundamentally changes the why of generosity. You aren't doing it to look good on a corporate social responsibility brochure.
Right. It's not a PR stunt.
No, you are doing it because your moral character matters infinitely more than your social status, and you trust that the divine economy is more secure than your stock portfolio.
It definitely reframes how we should view our resources. But let's be honest, it is often relatively easy to show compassion to a stranger in need.
Sure.
We can write a check, we can volunteer at a soup kitchen for an afternoon, and we get a nice little boost of serotonin.
We feel good about ourselves.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But where our true wisdom is tested, the hardest is usually behind closed doors, with the people we supposedly love the most.
The crucible of the home. Family dynamics are where our patience, our emotional regulation, and our character face their most grueling daily tests.
And the ancient wisdom does not shy away from the messy reality of domestic life. It warns about the calamity of a foolish son, and it describes the contentions of a wife as a continual dropping.
Such a vivid phrase.
It is. Now, I want to upgrade that metaphor for a modern listener because continual dropping sounds like a mild annoyance.
Like a little drip in the sink.
Right. But it's the ancient equivalent of a slow, unfixable, leaky faucet. And it's not just that the sound is annoying, it's that the constant dropping prevents you from ever entering deep sleep.
Oh, wow. Yes.
It keeps your nervous system in a perpetual state of hypervigilance.
That's a highly accurate way to look at it. The text highlights how ongoing emotional unrest, bickering, and contention slowly erode the peace of a household.
It just wears you down.
Right. When your home is contentious, you are stripped of your sanctuary. Your baseline emotional recovery is destroyed because you are always bracing for the next argument, just walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
Contrast that with the text's view that a harmonious, prudent partner is a literal gift from the Lord. A peaceful home is a foundational requirement for external resilience.
So how do we achieve that? Or at least, how do we prevent the house from burning down? The sources offer a specific solution for raising children. Chasten thy son while there is hope. Now, I want to unpack this. I'm assuming this isn't just about handing out groundings to a teenager. What does it truly mean to discipline while there is hope? Is this about neuroplasticity and catching a trajectory before it solidifies?
Absolutely. It speaks to the critical mechanism of early intervention. In modern psychological terms, we are talking about active mentorship and establishing constructive boundaries early on.
Okay.
While there is hope means addressing behavioral issues before they calcify into deeply ingrained personality traits.
Catching the hasty feet before they become a lifestyle.
Yes, precisely. It is about doing the difficult, exhausting work of parenting now to prevent devastating problems later.
Which is hard.
It requires immense emotional energy to withstand the short-term discomfort of your child's upset, like setting a boundary and holding it for the sake of their long-term stability.
Right.
If you avoid the friction of discipline when they are young, you are essentially setting them up to fail when society inevitably disciplines them much more harshly as adults.
Okay, but what about the adults in the room? We can discipline our kids, but how do we stop ourselves from being the leaky faucet? How do we regulate our own nervous systems?
The ancient text actually offers a masterclass in emotional regulation here. It states, "The discretion of a man deferreth his anger, and it is his glory to pass over a transgression."
It is his glory to pass over a transgression. I love that.
It's beautiful, and if we look at the mechanics of our modern world, an attention economy that practically runs on outrage where algorithms prioritize anger to keep us engaged.
Oh, absolutely.
This advice is revolutionary. Choosing emotional restraint, choosing to hit pause and actively overlook minor offenses is a superpower. It halts the cycle of retaliation.
It's the psychological equivalent of typing out a furious text message, taking a breath, deleting it, and saving the relationship.
Yes.
You choose long-term peace over the short-term impulse to win the argument.
And it requires immense self-control. But the text frames it not as weakness, but as glory. It is a mark of profound strength to absorb a minor slight and not let it dictate your emotional state.
Okay, so let's zoom out and look at the whole picture. We try to control our impulses. We try to manage our money with integrity instead of chasing status. We try to guide our families with patience.
We do a lot of managing.
We do all this planning, but ultimately human plans are limited. What happens when we inevitably hit the very end of our own control?
This is where the wisdom literature makes its most significant pivot. It moves from human effort to divine sovereignty. It asks us to confront the limits of our own agency.
All right, the text explicitly says, "There are many devices in a man's heart. Nevertheless, the counsel of the Lord, that shall stand." And it follows up by saying that the fear of the Lord leads to life, and whoever has it will abide satisfied. Now, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
For sure, go for it.
If God's counsel is the only thing that ultimately stands, why should we bother planning anything at all? Are our personal ambitions and all these devices in our heart just entirely useless? Like maybe our plans are just rough drafts.
Thinking of them as rough drafts is actually a brilliant way to frame it. The text isn't saying that human ambition or planning is useless. I mean, we just spent a significant amount of time discussing how careful thinking prevents impulsive disasters.
Right, and how we need to deliberately plan for our family's emotional health.
Exactly. Planning is essential, but attaching your entire self-worth to the specific outcome of your plans is a recipe for despair.
So it's about the tension between making the plan and letting go of the illusion of absolute control.
It's the balance between human ambition and fundamental humility. You make your plans, you use the wisdom you have, but you have to recognize that life unfolds differently than we expect.
Yeah.
Acknowledging that we aren't the CEO of the universe isn't fatalistic. It's a massive psychological relief. God's overarching purpose prevails over our limited perspective.
And how exactly does this tie back to the core mission of our deep dive today? Like, how does hitting the limit of our control actually strengthen our relationship with God?
Well, because surrendering the need to control every outcome builds actual trust. When we accept that his enduring counsel overrides our anxious, hasty devices, we stop fighting against reality.
We stop fretting.
We stop fretting against the Lord, like we discussed earlier with the speeding ticket analogy. Instead of being devastated when a plan fails, you realize you are secure in something much larger than your own capability.
Which brings us to the fear of the Lord. The text says it leads to a life where you abide satisfied. I'm gathering that this doesn't mean terror, but rather an ultimate anchor. Like, when your trust is anchored in a higher counsel, you aren't thrown off balance by the daily chaos of the world.
That ultimate anchor is what allows you to take bold, principled risks, like being generous when it doesn't benefit your social status, or choosing integrity over quick wealth.
Because you aren't afraid of losing status.
Right. You can do those things because your ultimate security isn't tied to the immediate worldly outcome. It changes the entire paradigm of what a successful, satisfied life looks like.
It really does. So let's distill all of this down to the core takeaways for you listening right now. A meaningful, stable life isn't built on the status you can achieve, the wealth you can accumulate, or the impulses you can instantly satisfy.
Not at all.
According to this ancient blueprint, it is built on the daily discipline of internal integrity. It is built on taking absolute personal responsibility for your actions instead of passing the blame.
It is built on extending real, non-transactional compassion to the vulnerable.
And practicing deep nervous system regulating patience in your closest relationships.
And tying it all together is the foundational shift. Trusting this ancient wisdom over our modern, frantic shortcuts. Letting go of the illusion of control allows us to stop fretting and fighting when things inevitably go wrong.
Yeah.
Instead of living in constant exhaustion, we get to lean securely on an enduring, divine counsel.
We get to trade our burnout for actual satisfaction.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a final thought to ponder.
A provocative thought.
Think about the gap between your own many devices, all those anxious plans, ambitions, and impulses spinning in your heart right now, and the steady, peaceful path of integrity and surrender we outlined today. Where is the friction in your life coming from? Are you exhausted because you are trying to force an outcome that isn't yours to control?
It is a question that requires some deep, uncomfortable honesty to answer.
It is. Thank you for joining us as we unpack the mechanisms behind these ancient truths. We've covered a lot of ground, from the dopamine loops of impulsivity to the ultimate anchor of surrendering our plans.
So gathering knowledge is only the first step.
Exactly. The real transformation happens in the friction of daily choices. So we leave you with this. How will you apply this information in your life?